Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Commonwealth Club of California, now celebrating its 124th year of existence in support of public affairs of the state of California, the United States, and the world. And we welcome all of you here. We want to make sure that you enjoy and appreciate what you hear here. Please feel free to share what you hear here. It's not a secret. And we hope that you come back often. The Northern California Women's Caucus for the Arts is our partner in crime this evening. This is a hosted program of the Commonwealth Club. You may have earlier seen attention paid to a rental that was here at the club. I think it was on Monday, but it was not hosted. We also rent out our space. And so just because something is happening here doesn't mean that we are hosting it. But we're definitely hosting with pride this wonderful group. I'm going to, you'll hear from this dynamic panel. We'll be focusing on the art of transformation, navigating career shifts, balancing work and family, battling imposter syndrome, taking bold steps toward meaningful change. You'll hear from a dynamic panel, this dynamic panel, with Sawyer Rose, Debbie Chinn, Vera Maslova, and Debra Reabock. Each has forged a unique path through personal and professional transformation. And I will moderate. Each person will speak for about 10 minutes, and then according to your name, you will go to a table. If you don't like that table, just wait a minute and see what it looks like. If there's 50 people at that table, obviously go on to another table. That's why I'm not saying which one you like, but what your name is. And you will spend about 10-15 minutes discussing the topic at that table, and then the leader of the table will change to another table. And we will do two 15-minute sessions like that, and then you're free to go to the reception, which we have some wine and beverages and a couple of snacks for you. And you can keep talking. The point of this is to keep talking with civility about the issues of women empowering women. So I'm going to start with Sawyer, who, let me get my notes right here. So who is Sawyer Rose is a sculptor, an installation and social practice artist who uses her artwork to shine a spotlight on contemporary social issues. She's been featured in the New York Times. Her work on the carrying stones has been featured in the Times, Ms. Bust magazine. She's been awarded grants from foundations, including the Puffin Foundation and the Creative Capacity Fund. And she's a fellow of the Royal Society for Arts, and she's the past president of the Northern California Women's Caucus. So let's get started. Sawyer?
All right, thank you so much, Ann.
Sure.
This is great.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Clock's ticking. All right, let's go. Okay, so hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. It's exciting to see you. I'm Sawyer Rose. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And I'm here to talk about balancing work and life and family. and hopefully to give you some actionable advice that's a little more useful than what you get from your Instagram feed. Like, just like practice self-care and have better boundaries. And like, yes, definitely do those things, obviously. But I'd like to get us into some more practical, real world ideas that can actually make lives feel more doable, kind of like get into the how-tos of that. So you heard a little bit about me. I'm an artist, and I'm the creator of a project called the Carrying Stones Project, which combines sculpture and data visualization to shine a light on women's labor issues. So looking at the paid and unpaid work that women do in their lives. And so over the past 8 years, I've collected stories and data from women all across the United States. And then I translate the numbers of work hours that they give me into large-scale sculptures that tell the stories with their data. So in my work, what I'm usually focused on is making that invisible labor visible. The hours that we spend caring for kids, elders, doing housework, volunteering in our communities, and so on. So, my background, that's my background work-wise, and then like family-wise, I obviously learned a lot about juggling work and life stuff when my children were young. I have 2 children, building a career while raising fabulous children. Say hi to our photographer. It's my spawn. Fabulous. But you're squeezing deadlines into nap time, and it's a nonstop hustle. And the thing I learned the most was that running on fumes is not a sustainable way to live. You just can't. Time and energy pushed to the max all the time. Or you can't live that way. But what I did learn is that there are actionable strategies that you can use to manage your time with your family and your paid work to really lighten your load. So now that my kids are older, I am in a different stage, and I'm asking different questions, right? My husband and I are looking at like, what kind of care do our parents need at this point, right? We're at that point. Now that I have teenagers, it's like, how do I give them independence? How do I step back without stepping away? Right? He's like, go on and step, it's fine. And you are probably also asking big questions. Everybody has big questions in their life. Like, what if my health changes? What if my partnership changes? My financial situation, right? These are all questions you might be asking yourself at any point during your life. And then if those things change, how do I keep showing up for myself and my family, my partner, my work, So tonight the recommendations that I'm gonna share, the suggestions, I really wanna target, work and family and partnership in a way that's for caregivers and non-caregivers, or parents, non-parents, people who might be at the start of your career, people who are making a career transition later in life. Like, this hopefully will be helpful for most of you. So because we were already talking about the kids stuff, I'll dive right into that. Let's talk about young parents. I don't know if we have any young parents in the room. I know we have grandparents in this room, though. So it gives you something to ruminate about, and perhaps share it with the younger generation if that is your place. Again, boundaries. We want to have boundaries when we share. But my number one tip for parents is to have the big conversations before the baby comes. For the love of God. Talk about what life is going to look like. What work is there to be done? What work is going to need to be shared or distributed? If you wait until the late night feedings and the poopy diapers, like, you're not going to be in the headspace to be able to think through that carefully. And also, a lot of people bring a lot of assumptions into a situation like that, maybe like what they brought from their family of birth that might not apply to the family that you two are hoping to build together. So, you need to be in a good place to discuss those things. Like, how's everything supposed to work around here? But, even if your grandchild If the grandchild is already in the cradle or even in the toddler bed, the big boy bed, still have the conversation, still do it. It's still worth doing. It's just easier if you do it from the get-go. And then once you've done that, and this actually now applies to everyone, not just parents, my favorite strategy for creating balance within a family unit is to schedule the important stuff first. My husband and I started doing this when the kids were really tiny. You think you're gonna try to fit in the family time and the just us time and the alone time and my own stuff time. You think you're gonna fit that all in, but it doesn't really happen. Life just has a way of washing over all that. Errands get done first, so if you put it in the calendar first and then schedule around it, you are much more likely to get it done. So also, once you have that scheduled in, take a look at what's left and decide whether you're going to do it together, you're going to divvy it up, however you like. Division of labor doesn't need to be an even Steven kind of thing. You just need to look at what everybody's workload is, maybe hour by hour, if that's a good way to look at it, and make it equitable and agree. So not even, but equitable, fair, and to the taste of whoever you're splitting it with, But definitely if everybody comes into the weekend going, I've got a lot to do, that's what's gonna get done. And the connection stuff is what's gonna get the scraps at the end. This is very apropos to my work.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, great. This is a great time to remind you that all work is work. And so when you're doing the calculus of dividing up your labor in your house, you really want to make sure that the invisible, unpaid labor gets the same amount of attention as the paid labor. You don't want to get distracted there for sure. And so this leads right into transformation. Because whether you are craving a change, or you're feeling stuck and inspired, you want to do something new, or change has been thrust upon you, new baby, a change of job, a new city, a health situation, you really want to try to reorganize your life in a simple way that's not going to give you more trouble than it's worth. So the first thing I would recommend is count your hours. This is what we do in my project, and am I done?
Keep going.
Okay. This is what we do in my project. Good. And every single person who's participated in my project and tracked their hours, paid labor, unpaid labor, everything else, has been absolutely surprised at what they do all day. They did not realize what their workload actually looked like. So do that, and then do a little simple organization. Figure out what really matters and what's just weighing you down. See if there's anything you can take out. And then again, schedule those important things at the start. Schedule those things into your life, and then the rest can fill in. And then the third thing I would say is pick one baby step, something you're going to change, something you're going to reorganize, but literally one thing. Maybe your mornings are crazy. Maybe you're not doing the meal planning. Pick one thing this week. Don't be a type A overachiever. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Pick one thing, reorganize it, see if it gives you some brain space.
That's good. Take brain space. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yay, thank you. Debbie Chinn has a distinguished 30-plus year career as an arts administrator, an arts activist, a nonprofit consultant, and a CEO for a number of organizations, and lately an author. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Why are you an author now?
I'll tell in a minute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what Ann didn't say is, yes, I've been a CEO and I've been moving through for arts organizations. But what you don't know is my first job was at the age of 3 selling cigarettes at my parents' nightclub. And let me tell you, when you learn how to upsell and can sell a Tipperillo for a pack of Winstons for 45 cents, you can go into the world of fundraising. So I didn't know that I was just cut out for that. So my arc has not been linear, and I think most of you probably don't have very linear paths because something has Sawyer was saying something comes in that changes you. But, after I sold cigarettes, my parents said, you're really good. You should go sit at the bar at the age of 6 and put toothpicks and umbrellas into cherries and pineapples. And I did. I loved it because it was so colorful. And people would sit at the bar next to me. And this is the 1960s, by the way, when people got off of work at 3 o'clock, and so the place was packed in the afternoon. And people would admire my toothpick art. And they would say, oh, that's a beautiful thing. And I would say, you want another? And so they'd order another drink. And my father said, stay at the bar so you're good for business. So I improved our profit margins. But so that just taught me that I can do anything by the time I was 6. But by the time I was 11, my father, who was an entrepreneur, was my biggest inspiration. He decided he had a vision. He would take this very simple, modest Chinese restaurant. And you know what happened in the 1960s? Hawaii became a state in 1959. And therein began the whole explosion of South Seas in Hawaii. So I became a hula dancer at the age of 11. Be that as it may, my life got more dull after that when I worked in the corporate workforce. But all throughout the 9-to-5 job of working in a bank, an insurance company, corporate service for attorneys, it was necessary for me to anchor that with anything that soothed my soul, which was to volunteer. This is the big thing, is to volunteer to build new networks. And I volunteered. I worked from 9 to 5 selling coats and selling insurance. And then 6 to midnight, I would volunteer for any theater company that would have me. Hang lights, build sets, serve coffee. Every nonprofit organization needs extra set of hands. And they need all of you to kind of say, I can help do something. And with that, you form some relationships that'll take you to the next level. And one of the things I'm going to talk about at my table, which is strategic networking. It's not something as simple. It actually happens when you don't even look. And by virtue of the fact that you start to connect with people through different lanes, I always encourage people to start building your Venn diagrams. You might have a diagram with your family, your diagram with your alums at your college, sports people. And after a while, when you pan back, after a while, those diagrams should intersect, and you will find richness in those intersection points that will help you springboard to another opportunity. Anne asked, why am I an author? It's a good question. I never intended to be an author. I've spent 30 years running arts organizations as a CEO, and I sort of got tired of it. I began to miss my artist days. And during the pandemic, I started to write a book about my family history of my family of immigrants, and I wanted to talk about the good things that immigrants have done to this country, including my family, and I wanted to counteract the narrative that the Chinese were responsible for all sorts of bad things, COVID virus and all that kind of stuff. And so I began to do finish a 10-year project, which is to talk about my family. And each of those conversations led me to so-and-so knows your aunt, so-and-so knows your cousin, and I began to wade my way through more conversations. My book was published in 2022, and I went on to speaking engagements, including here at the Commonwealth Club, by the way, and learned a lot about what resonated in the book. And people said, this has got to come off the page, and more people have to see it. So now what I'm doing is I am now adapting into a film. And now I'm a filmmaker at the age of 68.
Why did you become a producer?
So all my way of saying is I'm in a whole new industry as a filmmaker. I know nothing about this industry. By the way, I don't even watch TV. I don't watch Hulu. I don't watch that stuff. So I'm now in a world where I have to learn this vocabulary. I didn't know the difference between a documentary and a narrative and a streaming series. I had no idea. A year ago is when I started this journey. And what I've learned is those networks that I built when I was very young, they have come back in very strange and wonderful ways. Because the screenwriter that I'm working with is somebody that was introduced to me from a friend of a friend of a friend. And I took a chance and said, yes, I'll have lunch with you. And turns out she is from the same hometown that I was in on Long Island and frequented the next Polynesian nightclub in the town next door. Turns out she knew the fire dancer, she knew the Polynesian dancers, and she said to me, oh, by the way, I learned hula. And I said, who taught you hula? She said, oh, some woman named Leah. I said, Leah was the leader of our band. This is 50 years ago. So you never know when these things start to connect. And what I encourage people is to be curious and to think you're just one handshake away from getting to that relationship you need to take you to the next level. And being in this film industry, which is can be kind of cutthroat, what I have been so fortunate to experience is this hand reaching out to mine to say, have you thought about talking to those people over there? I've also learned to declare what you want. Just be bold with it. I said, I want to make this into a film. I don't know what I'm doing, but where do I start? And what I've also learned to what I would have told my younger self a year ago is start to save some money so you can begin to have lunches, because I'm going to a lot of lunches.
Lunch money.
Lunch money. You may have to travel and go to some festivals. So this is the infrastructure that I'm learning how to build as I take the opportunity to invite people to lunch or coffee. Those sorts of things are gold. And I am now one handshake away from getting to the kind of relationship I need to maybe finance the film. It's a long shot. But you gotta just keep at it. Now, why is it that some people are good at networking and why some aren't? Because this doesn't come naturally. I had a conversation with my sister, and she said to me, you're so good with networking. It comes so easy to you. And I said, I'm naturally curious about people. She said, oh, that's the difference. I can't stand people. So try to love somebody and lean in, and that way it'll open up your networks.
That's a good idea. Try to love. And in the highest heels and the longest dress, that's great. Vera Maslova is a partnership and fundraising specialist. And the last time we met, you just gotten confirmation of your visa.
Yes.
It was like, these days we know, hey, it ain't so easy. So we were congratulating her about that. She offers a partnership and investor relations services to businesses and cultural organizations. A fundraiser. She's raised millions of dollars. And she's a board member also of one of our favorite, I knew I was going to blow it.
We're excited.
One of my favorite nonprofits, the Letter Forum Archive on, I think it's 3rd Street is where they're located. So what is your view? Why do you think you've been able to make a difference?
I was thinking, Anna, thank you so much. I got a visa, and after Debbie's talk, I'm thinking, okay, now I want kids. I would love to share about the imposter syndrome, and thank you so much for having me. And I know that maybe, I'm sure a lot of people knows about it, but maybe somebody doesn't, and I wanted just to share what it is. It's when we consistently feel that we're not enough, when we think that our successes is not actually ours, and if we have any achievements that they think that it's just a luck, and then there is a voice that is telling inside you that, oh, you're like not enough, it's not your place. And then they would find out that actually I'm not capable of what they think. They thought that I am capable. And this is very heartbreaking feeling because it doubts not our skills, but kind of our identity, and I felt it a lot. And I actually want to ask you if you ever heard this voice in your maybe motherhood, or maybe changing your work, and maybe now you're in transition. I think like a lot of, this is our topic today. Maybe you raise your hand, whoever heard this voice.
Oh, wow.
Debra, yours?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of imposter.
Yeah, we're there. And this voice maybe was the strongest. 3.5 years ago, I moved from Moscow to San Francisco. And actually, before in Moscow, I had a team. I was very accomplished woman. The team was like 10 people. I was hosting huge events and like all the invitations. And I thought like, oh, now I'm sad and all is good. But then the war happened and like I kind of decided to move. And then when I came to the new country, the new city, I didn't have like close relationship. And it's literally starting from the scratch. And it's always like pretty new language, different context. East-West Coast, you don't know like the companies and everything. And I just started cooking for one old lady and cleaning the apartments. I still remember $15 per hour in cash. And and I just, this voice was so strong in me. Like, is it everything that I'm capable of? Maybe I don't belong to Bay Area, to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco. And maybe what helped me the most, and I realized that kind of antidote for imposter syndrome is a belief. And I mean, we all hear like, oh, you should believe in yourself and everything, but I think it's so hard. Like you feel you're nothing, you're just in the dark room, you can't talk to anyone, you can't ask help. And I realized that like belief maybe has a different layers, and I'm actually grateful to this panel that I kind of also reminding myself about it. And maybe the first layer is a kind of a tiny belief, like a spark of belief that we really have to tell ourselves that we are capable of, that you can make it happen. And I wrote in my bathroom in the mirror that bravery, and you make it happen. Maybe somebody has watched the movie Working Girl. If you haven't, like I watched it a few times and wrote it down as a, in some way, like a role model. But it's truly that just ourselves pushing in that, and just like in everyday and like in smallest things to remind ourselves and to give yourself encouragement, even there is no one outside that can give it. But the second, that may be even more important, it's actually to surround yourself with people that believe in you. And it maybe sometimes sounds easier. I think it's very connected with strategic networking, because sometimes, and it's the hardest maybe moments when we don't believe in ourselves, but then these people are becoming like a mirror, and through their eyes, your belief in yourself comes back. And I think was very, very powerful. My closest friend, Tatiana, is here, always supporting, even I'm saying, like, I can't do that. And she said, no, I know you can. And I think maybe another part of it is actually maybe building more distance with people that don't believe in you. Because sometimes we're focusing on first and not focusing on second. And sometimes even more painful is that it can be our closest people, even like parents or partners. Or I do believe when we're in transitional period, it's important for ourselves to build this bigger distance with these people, because this belief in yourself is so fragile that we need to protect it. And that's why we need to make these people further away. And the third, I think belief is a kind of a projector. I am helping to fundraise startups on different series and executive directors of nonprofits and different leaders. And what I observe sometimes, they don't believe inside them that someone would donate or invest. Like, I feel this huge resistance. I'm saying, like, you can do this and that, and they find different ways not to do these things. I hope they don't hate people. You should be curious when you're fundraising. But I feel, and what I'm telling them that, hey, if you personally, you give your time, you give all your resources, you give your own heart, then there is definitely at least one person in this huge world that would also believe it. And you need to find that one person. And I truly believe that people invest or donate not only in their ideas, but in beliefs that are behind it. This is like the driving source of nature in some way. And it's hard to believe, really, 3.5 years are over. I've really raised $9.5 million last year. was on the inauguration dinner of the honored mayor. I know he has a speech soon, and a lot of great things happened. I've learned and built so many incredible relationships. But even now, sometimes I do have this voice, and I'm telling myself, keep believing in yourself, watch like your circle and nurture your circle. And the third, like, remember that your belief is the light that's showing you the way, and just trust this feeling. And maybe
2 minutes.
yes, and I just think that if we can survive their parallel parking on hills, that is pretty challenging in San Francisco. The price of coffee in San Francisco, that we definitely can survive imposter syndrome, and really encouraging. Yes, and I mean, feel free to, that I can be your support too if you ever feel down, because a lot of people help me. I always feel that I need to give back. Thank you so
Go
much.
find it. That voice repeats itself. The voice repeats itself.
For sure.
But you have to get away from it.
Make their lower volume.
Is it transformational to get away from it, Deborah?
Okay, I'll catch. Thank you, Anne, and thank you to NCWCA and the Commonwealth Club for hosting the second session of Women Empowering Women.
Let me say, I'm sorry I didn't mention, Deborah's a photographer, wonderful photographer. And so she sees the world in a particular way, and she particularly deals with architectural photography. So I'm sorry, I forgot to
We know each
deal
other.
with
That's
structure.
okay. Yes, I am currently a photographer. And through strategic networking and meeting the right people, and that's how I met Vera, just in an art gallery. My focus has really been on transformation. And the transformation has come because I've embraced change and view it as an opportunity. So to kind of level set this for you, I started out teaching juvenile delinquents whose next step was jail, had a knife to my throat, and decided, okay, I've given back, and now what do I want to do? And so I ended up getting a job selling technology without ever having turned on a computer. Talk about imposter syndrome, right? But I knew that if I really thought about it and figured out what I needed, if I planned, I could become very successful. And so my topic is really about taking all the wonderful advice that we've had tonight and turning it into action and taking next steps. And I am going to refer to some notes. I'm currently in re-inspirement, which I coined as a way to follow my passion once I got out of technology. I was in technology, Internet 1.0 and 2.0, and got so broed out, I knew I needed to make a change. I'm sure it's a little less toxic, but the level of toxicity is still high in technology. And those that are there understand what I'm talking about. So I started to think, okay, what do I want to do? How can I segue to my next step and do it in a seamless fashion that fit? And so I actually took 2 years to think about this. Most people probably don't take that amount of time, but I encourage you to take as much time as you can to think about how are you going to turn your passion into your profession. And I viewed this change as an opportunity to let go of those things that didn't support me, that didn't support my values, and that weren't in the kind of environment where I wanted to be. And so, how do you do that? Well, you need to understand certain things about yourself, right? Like, what lights you up? I have friends I've talked about, well, what's your next step? Well, I don't know. I don't know what I like to do. Well, if you don't know what you like to do, nobody's going to tell you that. So you have to take time and be mindful about what is it that lights you up? Where do you get your joy? What is it that you can do where you look up, it's 4 hours later, and like you're going, oh, I think I need to eat. And we've all had those in the zone moments. And what skills did you develop in whatever your career is that might be useful for you now? What are your values? What's important to you? What are the kinds of people, environments, things, both internal and external, that you want to surround yourself with? And once you have that sorted, then I highly recommend you rank order them, because we all get pulled in by shiny objects. We all get pulled in by things that will take us off our main path. And time is the one thing that's not recoverable. So time is very valuable as an asset. And then what fits or aligns with your lifestyle? Do you like to travel? Those people that know me, I'm very active. I'm not the shy, quiet little wallflower, and I like to move around a lot, and I'm compact, so I like things that are compact because it's easy for me. So I came into photography as a stress relief from my corporate job, and my job was doing global strategic partnerships and marquee sales to Fortune 100 companies, where I was usually the only woman in the room. And I was understanding what are the patterns and trends in business. And so patterns, trends, sequences always were of interest to me. So when I look at a building, I do see the whole building, but I will zone in on certain patterns, sequences, motifs, how the light hits a certain part of the building, so that when people look at my photography, they're like, well, what is that? What's the perspective? And as Ann said, I have a very unique perspective on the world. And and once you figure out those things, also make a list of what you don't want, because what you don't want is just as important as what you do want and how you do want to be. Know who you don't want on your playground. So my bias towards planning is what forced me to sit back and look at, okay, so where do I want to be 2 years from now? And how do I want to feel? And how can I start that now? So there was a point where I had a full-time, very stressful job, was the top performer in the companies I was in, and did art full-time. And now I've been doing art full-time for a while, and sometimes I feel like I'm back at work because, as an example, this year I applied to 14 shows, was in 7, and had 6 other opportunities that came up outside of that. So it goes back to the work-life balance. And never did I think I would be at this place. Imposter syndrome, check, right? So do a self-assessment. Understand your strengths. Even more importantly, and this is something I have to force myself to do, sit back and take a look at your achievements. Because when you're always achieving, you're always moving forward, and you don't stop and look in the rearview mirror on where you've been. And if you stop and take a moment to do that, it helps negate that imposter syndrome. You see what you've accomplished. Not that you're going out and putting it all up in lights, but you're now wearing it internally. You can feel what you accomplished. So the next chapter of your life, whether it's a new career, a new partnership, or I also moved across the country, not quite as far as Vera, but pretty far. And there's a very big difference between the East Coast and the West Coast.
Can you explain that in 2 minutes?
I can. In the East Coast, I can go shopping in 10 minutes. Everybody would get out of my way, and I could check out, and it would be fine. Here, the first time I tried to do that, I had people like look at me like, "What planet are you from?" And West Coast people have a little more, I think, are a little softer. So I feel like I've got the best of the East and the best of the West
There
in
you
one
go.
blend. I want to leave you with these 2 thoughts. One, when you take action, think about SMART. Make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And lastly, if you walk away with one thought from my contribution, action plus intention that's aligned with action equals results. If you want to know more about that, stop by my table or talk to me afterwards, because I'm living proof, and I would be glad to share that with you.
That's great. Thank you.